Have you ever met a guy who calls himself a Sigma male? Silent, mysterious, emotionally detached. But something about him just feels off? He's not truly confident. He's trying too hard. Today we're diving into the hidden truth behind this rising trend. Because some guys are wearing the Sigma mask not for growth but for approval, and it's slowly destroying them. In a world obsessed with labels, Alpha, Beta, Sigma, many young men are being drawn into the Sigma male fantasy, the lone wolf, the high-value man who doesn't chase, doesn't feel, doesn't need. But here's the Stoic truth. Real strength is quiet, but it's not fake. Real detachment is earned, not performed. If you're faking this mindset to impress someone else, especially a girl, you're not becoming free. You're becoming trapped. In this video, we'll explore 7 damaging effects of trying to become a Sigma male for the wrong reasons. Stay until the end, because number 7 might hit you harder than you expect. Number 1, you lose your authenticity. Let's be real. There's a high price to pay for playing a role that isn't yours. When you start pretending to be a Sigma male just to fit into some mold or aesthetic, you begin to chip away at the core of who you are. This isn't about growth, it's about camouflage. You curate your behavior not for inner strength but for outer validation. You walk around with a cold, distant mask even when you're craving connection. You act like nothing phases you, while silently drowning in emotions you never gave yourself permission to feel. That kind of false stoicism isn't strength, it's slow erosion. The danger here is spiritual. You lose your voice. You forget what it's like to trust your gut. You bury your instincts so deep under this performance that one day you wake up and can't even tell where the mask ends and you begin. Stoic philosophy at its core calls us to live in accordance with nature. That means aligning your actions with your true nature, not a role, not an archetype, but your actual self. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In other words, better to be real and misunderstood than fake and praised. You were never meant to live a life that exhausts your soul. Pretending every day, keeping up an image, suppressing your emotions, denying your needs isn't power. It's self-betrayal in disguise. You're not here to be a statue of masculinity. You're here to feel, to fall, to rise, and to grow authentically. When you lose your authenticity, you don't just lose your identity. You lose your inner compass, and no man finds peace without his compass intact. Number 2, emotional isolation grows. A lot of men today, especially those drawn to the Sigma male mindset, believe that true strength means silence, that power means never opening up, that being alone is the same as being untouchable. But here's the brutal truth. Emotional isolation is a slow, invisible poison. It doesn't make you stronger, it makes you hollow. Real stoicism isn't about becoming a cold, detached machine. It's about emotional mastery, not emotional exile. Look at Marcus Aurelius, one of the most revered Stoic emperors in history. The man wrote daily reflections in his journal, pouring his fears, regrets, and hopes into ink. He didn't run from emotion. He faced it head-on. He was powerful not because he was numb, but because he understood his inner world better than anyone. That's what made him unshakable. The idea that being vulnerable makes you weak? That's a lie sold to men who are scared to confront their own hearts. Vulnerability is courage in its rawest form, to be open despite the risk. Think about it. When you fake detachment to look cool or independent, you're not just cutting off women, you're blocking out your brothers, your mentors, even your future self. You lose the ability to connect deeply, to speak truth, to release pain before it turns into anger or depression. And this isn't just theory. This is what's killing men silently. Increased suicide rates, anxiety, addiction. We weren't made to carry life alone. The man who dares to feel and still stands tall? He's the real Sigma. He's the one who survives, not just externally, but internally. Number 3. Relationships become performative. There comes a point when trying too hard to embody the Sigma male archetype, detached, unreadable, untouchable, turns into a mask you wear, not a man you are. What started as a mindset becomes an act. And relationships, they stop being places of connection and start becoming stages for performance. You're no longer there to experience the moment. You're there to control how you're seen in the moment. You're not hearing what's being said. You're mentally editing your response to sound colder, more cryptic, more calculated. But here's the truth most won't admit. This act drains you. You end up starving yourself of intimacy because you're afraid to look uncool, to look soft, to look human. That's not strength. That's insecurity in disguise. Stoicism teaches us that true strength lies in clarity, not in camouflage. Epictetus warned us centuries ago. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. When you crave constant validation through how you're perceived, you're no longer in control. You've handed the reins of your identity to your audience. Let's get real for a second. Women can sense this. Initially, they might be intrigued by the mystery, the silence, the calm, but mystery without depth is just emptiness wrapped in silence. Over time, that emotional void becomes obvious, because real attraction isn't built on illusion, it's built on presence, on being fully there, on the courage to be seen as you are, not as a curated version of yourself. When you chase the image, you sacrifice the experience, and the deeper tragedy, you lose yourself in the performance. You become a stranger to your own truth. So here's the reflection. Are you showing up as a man or just performing one? Number 4. You miss out on growth opportunities. There's this rising glorification of the lone wolf mentality, the Sigma male who doesn't need anyone, doesn't ask for help, doesn't show weakness. It's pitched like power, but more often, it's just a mask for fear. Fear of being vulnerable, fear of being seen, fear of not measuring up. But here's the brutal truth. When you isolate yourself to protect your ego, you're not preserving strength, you're preventing growth. The very moments that shape you, failure, discomfort, challenge, they all require you to step outside the shell. Think about it. The man who never steps into the arena because he's afraid of getting hurt never gets the scars that make him strong. I knew a guy, tough as hell on the outside, always calm, always distant. But his life, stagnant. No close relationships, no real risks taken, no deep fulfillment. And when life finally punched him in the mouth, a breakup, job loss, he crumbled because he had no experience being in the fire. Contrast that with the man who's been burned before and came out tougher, wiser. That's the guy you want to become. The guy who's earned his calluses. Stoicism doesn't preach avoidance, it preaches engagement. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The e.g. impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Avoiding discomfort to keep up a cold exterior doesn't make you stoic, it makes you stagnant. Real masculinity is forged in fire, not silence. It's okay to open up. It's okay to fail. It's necessary to fall down if you ever want to stand taller. Because growth doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in the trenches, in the conflict, in the mess. The question is, do you have the guts to go there? Number 5. You become addicted to control. Control feels powerful, especially to a man who's been hurt. Maybe it was betrayal. Maybe it was rejection. Maybe it was years of being told to suppress his instincts, his fire. So he adopts the Sigma mindset, detached, untouchable. I don't chase, I attract. I don't need anyone. And for a moment it feels like freedom, but it's not, it's a cage. Because that so-called control, it's just fear with a fresh coat of paint, a fear of being vulnerable, a fear of being seen. Stoicism never taught us to run from pain. It taught us to embrace it, understand it, and rise above it, not by pretending it doesn't hurt, but by refusing to let it define us. Marcus Aurelius didn't journal to control others. He did it to control himself, to remind himself that no matter how chaotic the outside world became, mastery of his inner world was always within reach. That's the real battlefield, not rejection, not emotion, but the fight between your fear and your reason. So ask yourself, are you building a fortress or are you building a prison? When you numb yourself to avoid getting hurt, you also numb your ability to connect, to lead, to truly live. Don't confuse stillness with stagnation. Don't mistake silence for strength. The man who can look his demons in the eye and keep walking, that's the man who's truly in control, not of the world, but of himself. Number 6, you sabotage real confidence. Most men misunderstand confidence. They think it's about walking into a room like you own it, arms folded, eyes cold, saying less, smirking more. But that's not confidence. That's costume. Real confidence is forged in fire. The fire of uncomfortable situations, brutal failures, and long nights where you ask yourself if you're good enough and choose to keep going anyway. It doesn't come from pretending you don't care. It comes from facing what terrifies you and proving day after day that you do care. About growth, about values, about becoming more than you were yesterday. Think about it. How many guys today mimic that Sigma grindset persona on social media? Quiet, brooding, mysterious, but when the pressure's on, when a relationship falls apart, when they lose a job, when someone challenges them, they collapse, because their persona was a mask, not a muscle. Marcus Aurelius didn't write Meditations from a throne of ego. He wrote it during war in solitude, while trying to carry the weight of an empire. That's the difference. As he said, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Real confidence doesn't need applause, it doesn't need to be seen. It's not posturing, it's presence. If you're constantly trying to look confident, ask yourself why. Who are you trying to convince? The man who is truly confident isn't trying to impress others. He's too busy conquering his own weaknesses. And that's where the power is. Because once you've fought through your own storms, you don't need to act like you're unshaken. You are unshaken. Confidence isn't silent because it's cool. It's silent because it no longer needs to speak. Number 7, you attract the wrong people. One of the most devastating consequences of pretending to be a Sigma male, or any persona that isn't truly you, is that you begin to attract people who are drawn to the mask, not the man. Especially in relationships, this becomes a trap. You might catch the eye of women who admire the mystery, the confidence, the independence, but they're responding to a character you're playing, not the man underneath. You're not seen, you're performed. And what feels like connection is often just illusion. Let's be real. How many times have you been in a room full of people, laughing, talking, even flirting, and yet felt completely invisible? That's not just loneliness, that's existential loneliness. You're surrounded by noise, but no one hears you. You get compliments on your silence, your strength, your stoicism, but they're not loving you. They're applauding the mask. Over time, you begin to rot inside. And the worst part? You don't even know who you were pretending to be anymore. In the Stoic tradition, Epictetus warned, "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." But in a world of image over integrity, that wisdom is drowned out by social media personas and YouTube gurus preaching power over authenticity. If you want love, brother, real love, not attention, not applause, then drop the act. There's no peace in performance. Being fully yourself might lose you a crowd, but it will gain you connection. And connection is what a man needs, not to be seen as a legend, but to be known as a man. Conclusion. So here's the truth. You don't need to be a Sigma male. You don't need to impress her with detachment. You need to become someone you're proud of. You need to live by values, not trends. And you need to find strength not in how much emotion you can suppress, but in how much of your truth you can live. If this video opened your eyes even just a little, hit the like button. Comment below with your experience. Have you ever felt pressure to act like a Sigma male? Has it helped or hurt your life? And if you're ready to walk the path of real growth, not just internet personas, subscribe, because on this channel, we talk about what truly makes a man powerful, from a place of stoicism, truth, and purpose.